Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Calibrated with Scott. I am, of course, your host, Scott. Today is December the 1st, 2025, and we have a lot to discuss. First and foremost, happy December to everybody. I hope it treats you all well. If you are new here, please consider clicking that subscribe button. If you are a returning subscriber and you enjoy today's content, please consider leaving a like and a comment. It helps me with the algorithm. I appreciate all of the support you guys have been giving me. The likes have been up, the views have been up, and the comments have been up, and it has been fantastic. So thank you very much. And without further ado, let's get into today's topic, shall we? Today, we are talking about the ongoing escalation that we are seeing in the Black Sea region. This comes at a very peculiar time as well, which we are going to talk about. But for those of you who don't know, and I'm going to take us over to my Twitter page real fast where we can see some of these events and how they have unfolded. So we are going to go ahead and look at these two oil tankers. Both, I believe, were owned by Turkish companies, but they are shipping Russian oil. So these are a part of the Shadow Fleet, if you will, which is just a Western label put on Russian ships, which are not insured by companies that the West supports. So when we cut Russia off of SWIFT and we put sanctions on all of their oil industry, it made shipping technically illegal globally, and it is illegal for the Russians to ship them because they ship this oil because of the sanctions we have put on them. So it is a shadow fleet, but really it's just the Russians selling their oil on the global market like they did before the war started. This is one of the ships that was struck. Here is another ship. Two ships were struck in the Black Sea region near the Bosphorus opening, which is closed to military vessels, but is open to civilian shipping, which this is. This attack is a very, very Ukrainian thing to do. We saw during the last round of negotiations, I've very clearly told you what these negotiations are and how they will lead to no, constructive result. This is the Ukrainian MO. As soon as you get into negotiations, as soon as things aren't going your way, you flip the board, you flip the table, and you hope that the outcome is going to benefit you in some way. And when the negotiated settlement that the U.S. put forward is not going to work for Ukraine by design, what is the immediate reaction of the Ukrainians? Well, they start doing something that they have not done, which is a very clear escalation in this conflict. And that is to strike at these tankers, which are carrying oil, not just for Russia, but for the other nations which are buying the oil. Again, a further escalation, and it's putting the West in a worse position. But this is just another escalatory step that the Ukrainians and the West are taking to prevent negotiations from going through and to, elicit a greater Russian response. And I think that this will very, very clearly elicit a Russian response. But before we talk about that response, I'm just going to go back over to my Twitter page, and we can see the video of the Ukrainian surface drones, which ended up striking the vessels in the Black Sea, these tankers. So here you can see the same drones that the Ukrainians have used on the Kerch Bridge have tried to attack different ports, Novorossiysk and other areas. The same drones were used on these commercial vessels. Not unlike what we saw the Houthis doing in the Red Sea, preventing shipping going to Israel. The Ukrainians are doing the same thing in the Black Sea near the Bosphorus. But it is not only limited to the Bosphorus. You can see that this is the second ship that was hit. The first one was the previous. Here we can see the vessel lining up, striking the boat. Again, a completely unprotected civilian asset. It is part of the Russian economy. So I guess you can say dual use. It's, I guess, a legitimate target. But the escalatory nature and the consequences of these actions are going to be so detrimental to not only Ukraine, but also Europe and the United States as the global fighting becomes more intense and the US definitely begins to shift to China, we are going to see massive consequences for these actions. This is not something new, by the way. This has been a long planned out situation. The French have already, boarded and taken over one of these tankers in the Russian Shadow Fleet, but it never seems to be as it never seems to be consequential. In this case, this is a massive escalatory step. This is very, very consequential. This is going to have cascading consequences and ramifications going forward. And it's not just Senegal, and the crew had to be evacuated from said vessel. So the targeting goes beyond the area of the Black Sea. This is a global attack on Russian oil shipping. And what I think you're going to see the extending consequences for Ukraine from this action will be Russia now actively targeting all Ukrainian shipping that goes into the port of Odessa. Ships that have been, moored, I guess, I don't know, moored is the right word, stuck in the port or have been delivering stuff previously have been targeted. So it's not necessarily a unjustified escalation for the Ukrainians here, but the very timing of it during negotiations, the consequences of said actions, and the just the misstep here if you actually wanted to achieve peace. It's very clear that the US does not want to achieve peace. Europe does not want peace. Ukraine does not want peace. They are trying to continue this proxy war to its fullest. And this is just the next step, guys. So you are going to see the Russian oil sector targeted very, very intensely by the United States. This is going to spread all across the world because we are losing this proxy war, and we need to switch up the momentum here. We need to get something going to stabilize Ukraine, rebuild Ukraine, and then have Ukraine continue this proxy war. And the idea of a ceasefire, the idea of peace right now, it's very close in the fact that the Ukrainians are doing so bad on the battlefield. But the thing about all of this is that the US does not care what happens to Ukraine. The US does not necessarily need Ukraine to win for the US to win in the end, right? This is overextending Russia. This is part of the objective that the US is pushing. And this is just that next step, and it's a trial run. What you're seeing right now is a trial run. How the Russians respond to this aggression will determine how the US utilizes this method going forward. If the Russians do nothing, you will begin to see this being used across the globe against Russian oil, Russian oil infrastructure, not just ships, but pipelines. Everything will be targeted. Anything outside of Russia is going to be very, very vulnerable. And this doesn't just extend to Russia. This will also extend to China. This will also extend to places like Venezuela, Iran. All of these countries are now going to be attacked by just, who knows whose drones on the sea. And it creates this environment, this atmosphere of escalation where now why will the Russians not attack European oil ships, right? If the Russian ships are getting attacked, why would the Russians sit back and let Europe get oil when they're the ones who need the cheaper energy, right? Why would Russia allow its trading partners to be attacked similarly to the way they're being attacked and not go after US oil tankers or European oil tankers? And the whole idea is it's just plausible deniability. It wasn't us. We didn't do it. And this is the danger. This is the risk. And we are just blindly walking into this, thinking that we are somehow going to win. And it's this ill-conceived notion in the West that we can't lose. I hear it all the time when I listen to people talk about Ukraine. It's like an inconceivable notion that a Western partner is going to lose, which is wild when you consider the Kurds, the ANA, the South Vietnamese. I mean, everybody who we've supported recently has lost, and in a pretty dramatic and catastrophic fashion. So I don't really get the idea of being a U.S. ally in this. I don't get the idea of continuing to escalate in this nature when it is not going to, collapse Russia. All it is doing is creating a situation, a stigma almost, where something is going to have to come back to you, right? We are losing the proxy war. We are trying to change that by escalating in this direction of civilian shipping, which is incredibly dangerous. And by the way, extremely hypocritical when we look at Operation, what was it? Something Guardian in the Red Sea. That was a complete failure for the United States when they were trying to stop Houthi shipping or Houthi strikes in the shipping lanes in the Red Sea. So this is not a new situation, but the escalatory nature of this and the timing with negotiations is very new. Thank you all for watching today. I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this shorter, non-battlefield based commentary on the ongoing strikes on Russian oil shipping. If you did, please consider leaving a like, leaving a comment, and subscribing if you have not already. I appreciate you all tuning in today. I believe I will be doing a live stream tomorrow, so tune in for that. Be safe and have a fantastic week, everybody.